Hi everybody. This video that I'm ready to make is a video that whoever hears this video, whoever will hear this video, is a concept that they will probably always be interested in, and that's the concept of having a job. I mean, so often it's just so built into our psyche that of really basically who we are and our existence as far as what we do is so important to us, and it so affects us and everything we do, and all the people around us, and how we're perceived and everything revolves around what we do, which a lot of people consider a job. But the issue is that the concept of a job is basically a project that needs to be finished. That's what jobs are. I give you a job, and you go and do the job, and the job's finished. But that concept's actually kind of a dated concept. It revolves around more of a time when there was an industrial revolution and people had jobs because they were factory workers. They went to a place, a brick and mortar place. They worked for a certain period of time. When they got done with the job, then they would go home, and they would be taken care of by the employer. So the concept of job really is security. And that's what people really want. They want to know that they can go someplace, work for a certain period of time, and have a certain standard of living, and that that's going to be supplied to them by a job. That the job is going to offer some level of emotional and financial security, and that's what we all want. We want to be able just to relax, do a project, and at the end of the day, have enough money to live on and maintain a certain standard of living. But that concept is not really relevant or viable in today's world. One of the reasons it's not viable is because what you can do in a day to make money, enough money to live on, usually isn't very much. I'll give you, for instance, when I was a kid growing up on a farm, what it took to have a job is 2 legs, 2 arms, and get out of bed. And if you could go out and do some physical labor during the day, you had a job. But the job was menial labor, and it really never supplied much of an existence. You couldn't live off of what people were paid on the farm. And so what happened was an industrial revolution took place with the farmers. They got bigger combines, they got bigger tractors. When I was a kid growing up on the farm, everything we did, all I saw was buildings pushed over, farms that were put together, were consolidated, and one farm was, fence rows were taken out, tree rows were taken out, and the farms were consolidated and made larger and larger, because that's the only way you could exist. You had to have more land in order to exist. That was the whole idea. So the concept of having more people work wasn't what you were looking for. You were looking for bigger tractors, bigger combines, better herbicides, so you didn't have to hire the farm workers. So you didn't have to have the irrigation, have people go out and manually irrigate, or irrigate by, irrigation where you had to throw a tube over the ditch or open a pipe or something like that. It went to center pivot systems and stuff like that. So all I ever saw when I was on the farm, and it's been a long time since I've been on the farm, is less people involved and more technology involved. And that's what's going on in our world today. So the concept of having a job, just going someplace, working, getting a certain amount of money and be able to survive and have a standard of living, is one that is not as relevant as it used to be, or isn't as easily achieved as it used to be. So, when I see something like what's on USA today about Donald Trump vows to jumpstart growth, uh, short on details. This is exactly what Trump is known for. Donald Trump on Monday offered more of his economic vision for supporters, but a few particulars. So Donald Trump's one of these guys that just says, all we do is we just go get our jobs back from other countries. We go to another country and we say, we're going to tax you. We're going to place tariffs on your whatever we want to sell in our country, and we're going to get those jobs back. But the problem is the jobs that we're bringing back are the jobs like I just described, that was like when I was a kid on a farm. They aren't the greatest jobs in the world. So the concept of just being able to show up someplace and have really any living at all, just by producing or making or doing something as on a job related basis, on having a project that needs to be done, isn't the way we need to think about how to work today. The way we need to work today in today's world is is really much greater or much more complicated than just having a job. I mean, the way people are working today is more like, um, people are working on projects or creating activities or creating jobs or becoming entrepreneurs or being people. I've seen people making money so many different ways in so many different venues and so many different things because of the way we can connect today with the internet and with all the online opportunities and things like that we have today. I would say it's more like, instead of going to a big company and working, it's more like individualized, specialized, more stuff like that, more stuff where people are getting more creative to do things. I see so many people doing creative things and making money by doing just um, activities that are, are innovative or creative, that and you can do them. Basically, there are people like, for instance, YouTubers. I mean, there are people making money on YouTube, and the money that they make isn't from their community or their town or their city, but literally from people that are watching their YouTubes from around the world. I mean, that's just one example. That's just a simple example because this is a YouTube video. But this is the way we have to start structuring our thinking. We have to start structuring our thinking around an existence that isn't just going and showing up someplace and deserving an existence because you showed up and put in a certain amount of time, which is what the concept of a job is. That's not anything that's easy to achieve today. I mean, believe me, I've tried. There's not many places where you can go get and not only that, make enough money to where you supply, your own existence, but supply the existence of your family or whatever else. Those are hard to do. So finding something to do today is a little bit more complicated than just getting a job. So when people are putting out a populist message like Donald Trump that, hey, we're just going to bring back the jobs without much detail, it's a little more complicated than that, and it's a little more difficult than that. I would think of, and I listened to somebody one time on a YouTube video, and they were saying that they foresaw the future. This person was in one of these think tanks, and they foresaw the future as the companies that will exist in the future are not companies that are like standing armies, where you've got massive, huge standing armies. It's going to be more like, the SEAL team, maybe just a few select guys working on one particular mission. And I mean, that's what these SEAL team people are about. These like 10 or 12 highly, highly trained, highly efficient guys that go out on a mission, and they're very surgical and they get it done. And then they're very, very, very skilled in what they do. That's kind of be more like the way jobs will be in the future, or more of the way people will make a living in the future, is more where people will work together in smaller groups, and it'll be more of trying to solve a problem where there is no higher level in the group, or a lower level in the group. It's just whoever can supply whatever is needed at the time in order to get the problem fixed. And that's what we really need to work on, is, if people are really wanting to exist in today's world, is how to solve a problem and how to connect with other people to solve that problem, and think in ways of solving problems and not in ways of just having a job. The problem with having a job is, first, somebody's got to employ you. And if somebody's going to employ you, it's got to be worth it to them. I mean, there's a liability in having an employee. And one of the problems is you don't only have to pay the person a salary, but you're responsible for maybe now in today's world, the health care. You're responsible for the tax that you have to take out of their paycheck, the Social Security tax, all the things that they call legacy costs, all the things that that you have to give to that person for them to work for you. You have to make a little bit of a profit, or there's not worth having a liability around. And what the legacy cost is, and I've heard this one time about Detroit. This is what killed Detroit, was you had so many people that worked in the auto industry that after they retired, and after they continued to get a retirement from the company, but they no longer were active as far as the workforce was concerned. It put more stress and strain on the people that were continuing to work, and so they had to not only make a salary or make whatever they did of value. Their work product had to be profitable in the sale of the car. But not only that, but they actually had to make the money had to be greater because of the fact that the whoever was not working that had generated retirement income or something like that, that also had to be built into the cost of the car or the cost of the product. So it got to the point where the cost of the product got so expensive that they didn't want to do it in this country anymore. So they just pulled out and went to another country where they didn't have these legacy costs, where they didn't have to pay the retirement of all the people that worked there for a lifetime. I'm not saying that's right, but I'm just saying that's kind of the issue with jobs. I mean, if you say you're going to support somebody for an entire lifetime, that entails maybe the years where they're not going to be working where they need to be cared for, but then somebody else that's coming up that's working behind them is going to have to take care of that person. In the future, that may not be able to be happening. There may be other, and that's what I'm saying about maybe the SEAL team. You know, it's going to be smaller groups of people working on problems individually, and you're not going to have, you know, the standing army. You're going to have more of the select people working on, you know, fewer things in smaller units. So anyway, the concept of a job, the idea of a job, is kind of antiquated. I think it's a little bit like education. The idea of education where you just go to school, you get a diploma, and then you get your ticket stamped and you get a job and you get taken care of for the rest of your life. I mean, that's just not the case. And so many people are sold that idea, that concept, and they get you know, they go and they borrow the money from the government to pay for the student loans to go to school, to get the education, to get out and realize that nobody's hiring. There's no jobs. And that's why people buy into somebody like Donald Trump, because Donald Trump just comes out with this really short message that I'm going to bring the jobs back. You know, it's Mexico's fault. You know, it's Japan's fault. It's China's fault. I mean, they took our jobs. We're going to get them back. And it's not that simple. And it just doesn't work that easily. I mean, this is more of a mindset than it is, you know, some easily way to regather up the jobs from around the world where they used to be. So, or where we used to have them. So anyway, I just want to bring this out because this is very important. And like I say, there's a lot of people who's, you know, this is really affecting our whole economic future and our economic, you know, everybody talks about how the economy is so weak and it's so bad. Until we restructure our thinking, our economy is not going to change, because we're just not going to be an economy that's going to be prosperous unless we reevaluate the idea that you just go get a job somewhere and you get an existence and some company's going to pay for all your needs and all your family's needs. I mean, that's just not the way it works. It may have worked for a little while during certain periods in time, like the you know, when we were the machine, or we're the assembly line, or the industrial revolution or something like that. But in today's world, it's just that concept is antiquated and dated. So that's why I named the video "The Death of the Job." You know, rest in peace. So anyway, whatever it's worth, that's the way I see it. Thank you very much for listening.